Find the work that you did last lesson, familiarise yourself with what you did last lesson, and then begin to read the comments that I've made. And if you can, then start trying to answer some of these on your whiteboards. The comments all follow a similar structure. They all start off with a comment that's to do with like almost their effort, and I did that to try and encourage them to carry on really. And then the next step was to write 2 or 3 comments for each individual. So here it talked about 18 months, so they've put the number 18 and then the month, and then they've divided by 2 because that's how long they're pregnant for. So my first question here was which of the facts, of the important facts, have you not taken into account, which means you can't just divide by 2. Because what I was trying to get them to think about there was one of the facts that said that on average they have 3 litres or 4 litres a year now, whereas that assumption that they've made there is saying that they're going to have 6 a year. So, but again, I don't think there's any problem with what they've done there, because they have started to think about a solution, haven't they? They've just made it too simplistic at this stage. I mean, on this one here, the final question that I asked there, I asked if a timeline would be helpful. So I'm not telling them to use a timeline, but I think that it would help this pupil if they did use a timeline.
But it's right to be a question as well, because for them and their thinking it might not be useful, but they might think, oh yeah, that would really help me.
Yeah.
So you're giving them the choice.
There were other times where I didn't have to prompt them as much because they'd already gone quite far down their own way of thinking. So I was asking them more about, are there any assumptions that would make the problem a little more simple? Are there any assumptions that they could make that would make it more realistic?
It's a differentiation, basically, isn't it, by the comments you write? Because
yeah,
I was doing the same.
I can remember speaking to you about it, Andy, when I first started. We spent quite a few minutes talking about whether the comments and the questions really should be numbered or just bullet pointed. And I can remember you speaking about if you number them, it's almost as though you're ranking them or like putting them in some kind of hierarchy, whereas they weren't supposed to be like that. They were all supposed to be of equal value. Really.
And yeah, and really it's not, they might end up not using one of your questions or things. It's just as long as there's something in one of them that prompts them to take the next step, then the others might become irrelevant at that point. The first time I gave them feedback, it did take a long time. I think doing this on a regular basis would get much faster. I felt like a lot of the comments I were writing applied to several pieces of work and how I could have sort of summarised the whole class. If you needed to be efficient and do it quickly, you could give the whole class, here are 5 comments that apply to your work. Can you look at them and decide which are relevant to you? I mean, it is time consuming, but I think you'd get quicker, wouldn't you?
A class set of these took me maybe 2-3 hours to get the first lot done, but that would get quicker. But a class set of books will take me an hour and a half maybe to do that, especially with the group that I did today, because there's so many of them. So it's not that much longer than marking books summatively, I don't think.
And if it makes a difference,
so you can
see. I mean, I would be like the first time, because it's the first time that I've really gone to town with this kind of feedback, and it did take me a very long time, but I can really see the value in it, and I certainly don't mind spending time doing that, because I don't think I'd probably, well, I know that I wouldn't do this weekly or even fortnightly, this type of stuff. I think that they'll get much more used to what you're expecting of them.
Yeah, and you'd have to write less and less as they became more independent.
Yeah.